And I would love to say also a few things about the ontologies we've presented last year. Colin is here in the room. Colin, I hope it's okay if I say something about the ontologies you are a maintainer of. Feel free to voice your criticism if I say something that you think is not appropriate. But I wanted to just briefly say something about the status of CHMO and the other RC ontologies, for example. So looking at CHMO and the issue tracker, we can see that we have mostly harmonization issues, which I think is a good thing because those can be dealt with using the tools like the NFTI for Chem terminology service that hopefully makes it easier to get an overview of different ontology trackers, like for instance, the dependency between CHMO and OBI and the issues I've linked here that are from the CHMO tracker, or what I've shown earlier, where we have an overlap between IO and CHMO. And then there is a discussion going on, or there's an old discussion that's rather been an issue that's been open for quite some time, and I commented on it, that, yeah, the people from OBI were under the impression that CHMO might be inactive. And then I said, I doubt it. In the last ontology workshop, Colin was here. We are reusing it from NFTI for Chem. So basically, it turned out that we were talking about a few classes that were donated from CHMO to OBI, which can be problematic because they keep the namespace, which some proponents say is a good thing. But actually, it means classes have been moved from CHMO to OBI and have been added to the source code of OBI using the CHMO IRI of these terms, which is good because they keep their identifier. The bad thing for users is users be like might be confused why they have a CHMO term now natively living within the source code of OBI. So if you're interested about this discussion, feel free to check out this issue and maybe comment on it. Then what we've experienced with working with the ontologies in our collection is the fact that we have two orphaned ontologies, Fix and Rex, that are declared as orphaned by their status because they are not maintained actively anymore for a long time already. And their scope overlaps a little bit with CHMO and other ontologies, but here especially we've got an overlap between Fix and CHMO. Luckily, we have already annotations within CHMO that map to the respective fixed classes. And I think it would be great if we find some more people to. Oh, sorry, got a no, Carlos will be coming. Yay. Yeah, it would be great to find people to help us with this, to maybe get the gaps which still might be there between Fix and CHMO covered, to kind of get everything we need from Fix into CHMO. And again, also here, similar to ChemInf, it would be great if we could switch CHMO to an ODK-based repository, because then issues that are usually harmonization issues and that come up when importing terms from other ontologies could be solved more easily because we've got automated import modules. So this is all I want to say to CHMO. Oliver, Johannes, maybe you take care of Carlos when he comes in. Then what I wanted to say is something about PROCO, because we didn't have the time to say anything about PROCO last year. And I just briefly wanted to say PROCO has been added for a long time to our collection. And it is a joint venture between industry and academia, people from OBO, from the OBO Foundry, Oliver Ye. And basically here you can see what the scope is. So it is interesting also for NFDI for Chem and also for related domains. What's a little bit different from, or difficult for me when looking into it, I have to do more analysis on this, is yeah, the hybrid status between being an allotrope foundation ontology. PROCO is a module of the allotrope foundation ontology suite, AFO, and also reusing a lot of OBO Foundry ontologies, because the allotrope has yeah, some different modeling patterns, especially with regard to how to model information. So with regard to a research data management context, they have a general role and that is used to describe information. And unfortunately, we do not have that much open documentation, which would be better to bring OVO Foundry-based ontologies more in line with the Electro Foundation. And I think PROCO could be a viable candidate to focus on this work. So yeah, a call to all the people listening here and who might have a stake in this to see if we can have a further analysis regarding the overlap between ChemInf, CHMO, RXNO, and MOP, PROCO, and other OVO ontologies, and having hopefully better documentation for design patterns. And do I see this correctly? Oopsie. I've missed RXNO and MOP. Here, I just wanted to say that I started with the ODKization of this repository. We have MOP, the artifact, the OWL file, and the OBO file, as well as the RXNO, OWL, and OBO file living in the same repository. I suggested that it would be better to have two separate repositories, also having them as ODK-based repositories, because then it's easier to import MOP into RXNO, since MOP defines the basic molecular processes on which the named reactions in RXNO depend. I started this, but I unfortunately had to quit due to a priority shift. So I would love to have maybe other people's helping me with it. I've linked the issues and I tried to document everything we did. I did this together with Colin because there was some overlap. Some classes have been defined in the RXNO source code as well as in the MOP source code. Colin and I went over a list that I've exported using Robot into an Excel file, and we commented on it and reconciled this overlap. So this is pretty much done, but still the finalization needs to happen. And yeah, if we have people who are willing to help us with this, it would be great if these people reach either out to me or to Colin. And here also we have some overlaps with Rex. And since I would love to recommend to our users in NFTI for Chem who want to use ontologies and they stumble across Rex and they see terms in there that might not be in MOP or RXNO, I would rather love to recommend RXNO and MOP as a standard instead of Rex because it's not maintained. So we would have to look more into this overlap and see if we can salvage something and take this over to RXNO. And then lastly, having a minute left. Yeah, Oliver wrote in the chat that this sounds like an urgent need for a hackathon. Indeed. Unfortunately, we have a rather short workshop right now here, but yeah, for all of you who are interested in doing such a hackathon, please reach out to us. I think we will be able to organize such a thing. Lastly, giving you a status update about VIBSO, the vibrational spectroscopy ontology. We just very briefly mentioned it last year because we just started with a very rough draft and set up a very empty ODK-based repository last year. We did some more work on this, and by we, I mean mainly me and colleagues from NFTI for Chem, Giacomo, who's in the call as well, but also colleagues from the Charisma project who are working on a new open, fair file format for vibrational spectroscopy, and they'd love to map that file format to the terminology we develop in VIBSO so that in the best case scenario, we can convert data sets that are in that file format automatically, hopefully, to knowledge graphs to be ingested in some triple stores and do federated queries over knowledge graphs, hopefully. So we're trying to align our work by looking into the terms that the Charisma project defines in a semantic media wiki, linking that to the issues we have in VIBSO, because for each new term request, we file an issue where we discuss the term, what label it should have, the definition, the hierarchy, the position in the hierarchy, and so forth. And this link to the issue will then be permanently part of the term in the ontology, so you can follow this discussion. And so we want to link between the Charisma wiki and our GitHub tracker to make it easier to later on have this mapping. And then also we have people, one person from BSF, which is great, and from IUPAC. So we're trying to be as open as possible. Feel free to join these calls or to get over to the GitHub repository and write issues there. And having ODK as our framework is also helpful because it can automatically generate documentation. So it should be easy to see something like this RDMSA pattern you see here. Like such design patterns we want to share as soon as possible also in the documentation, so it's easier to onboard new domain experts who have no or a little experience with ontology to help us in this endeavor. And just briefly saying, currently we're about working on adapting adapting the terms from the ISO specification that deals with Raman spectroscopy, and especially we have a hard time or a tough thing, the central core, defining the Raman spectroscopy assay types via axioms to account for different differentiation axes, like is it a Stokes or anti-Stokes, is it coherent or not coherent, and so forth. So we try and would love to solve this via axiomatization. Yeah, thank you